Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Very excited to talk to all of you today. I hope we will be able to have like straight up communication with the audience as well. I'd love to hear from people here.
Yeah, wonderful. So, first I'll just open with, on a personal level, it is really an honor that that I'm able to moderate and have this conversation with you. I think, especially having a young daughter who's now a young woman, what I love about the parts that you've always had is they've always been strong women. And sometimes they can be hard to find if you're a mom, wanting to make sure that in a movie that you're introducing them to strong role models. And so I think first, thank you for that. We love Wonder Woman and all of the other movies that you've done, but it's just really wonderful to see all of the successes and the work that you've done.
Thank you.
And I have to ask, so with your Gladiator movie coming soon, which we will be there first night, I promise you, and as an accomplished actress, philanthropist, and mother, you've been a pioneer for change in Hollywood, especially, for decades. What new opportunities do you see for women in the industry today that didn't exist before?
I've been doing a lot of press these days, just in preparation. And I get these questions all the time, because Gladiator is a gladiator movie. And my character just does not really do the actual fighting in the arena. And so, inevitably, I am one woman and, 3,000 men. And so many journalists have asked me, what is that like? And I said, well, it's kind of lonely. And I said, one of the things that has been the most amazing about the progress that women have made in Hollywood is that it went from being the norm in my career that I was the token woman in the film that basically only told stories about men, to the point where we are now not just making so-called chick movies or rom-coms or something for the female audience, but doing that which I have been asking producers about for decades. I started when I was 15 as an actor, and I am 60 years old now, and so that is a very long time to wait to tell stories about what women are really like. If you were living on Mars, but you could somehow capture the antenna of all of the streamings, of all of the films that we show on this planet, you would think that women are very interested in love. You will think that sex is on their mind the whole time, and in fact, they dress for it every single day, all day long. You would think that they spend a very little time thinking about their children, and you would think that they don't work. Why is that? Because you never see a woman work. I get these scripts that they say, you are playing an astronaut or a scientist, mathematician, and you quite literally never see her doing that job, ever. It's just a title. It's part of what makes her more of a trophy for the guy. Oh, he has an astronaut wife. Oh, he has a mathematician wife. But we're not interested in seeing women work. And so that's why we haven't seen any of you women in film. When you see a boss, she is grumpy, she is irritating, mostly unfair, kind of mean. But you don't see the women that I know that you guys are, which is you work hard. You care about your kids. You have aging parents who need your help. You have worked really hard to get where you are. You have sacrificed a lot, and you have been underestimated all the way to where you are now. You have been unseen, forgotten, unmentioned in meetings, at promotions, etc., etc., etc. And yet, you prevail. You continue to grow this planet ever so slightly more fair for every single day that you guys do what you're doing. Me, I'm acting. And I try in my little way to help inspire and change. And change the way we portray women. Because I have been so fed up for so many years about the way women are portrayed. The thing that has changed in Hollywood is that little by little, they are aware in HR. They are aware, even at the board level, that if they don't provide a product that actually speaks to the audience, they won't go. So I suggest that every one of you really work to ensure that your boards are inclusive. We worked very hard. When I started out and I was asking Jim for help, I was once again one woman and a bunch of guys creating Human Needs Project. And every year we were looking for board members. All of the men were thinking of all of these other guys whom we should bring to the board. And I would say, don't talk to me until you found women. And don't talk to me until you found people of color, because I am not sitting around another white table or another white male table. There's plenty of room for white males. We know it. They don't need protection. They can handle themselves. So now I'm asking everyone, including all of the males here, whenever you are promoting people into your board or your executive committee, really look at what's around the table. In the EU, Ursula von der Leyen, when she started, she made a demand on all of the countries. I need exactly equal distribution. So if you're sending me a commissioner, if that's a male, then you have to check with all of the other countries as well, because I'm not going to accept a male if there are too many of them. And you may think, but I love guys. I like guys. They're lovely. They're fun. I love hanging out with Jim. Jim is like one of the coolest people on the planet. I adore this man. Get that on tape. But I need to make sure that my personal choice doesn't override the needs of us as a group. We have been underestimated for too long. And people keep on saying, oh, it's changing. It's changing because now more than 50% of people who graduate from college are women. But we all know that that doesn't mean that they're going to be in the leadership positions. I want to ask all of you to look to your sisters. Make sure you're promoting them, because it starts down there, right? And I am promising you guys that I will continue to try to make stories about women. And I will continue to work with female producers and female financiers. And as soon as you guys make a bunch of money, invest in female enterprise. Invest in female businesses. You know, that's how we change things. Feminism isn't about division into man and woman. DEI isn't about division into white, black, whatever color. It is about the effort at total inclusion and total equality. There is nothing hostile about that. it is all actually in the name of love, because equality is love.
That was wonderful. Thank you. So I'm going to switch a little bit here, and I want to talk about the incredible work you're leading through your philanthropic organization, the Human Needs Project. And we had the opportunity to see that clip just a moment ago. What initially inspired you to start the Human Needs Project, and how did that experience shape the mission of the organization?
It was the very first impression that I got. And you know, when I went to acting school, my maestro, my teacher, said to me, the very first moment that you read something is magic. So be ready to see, to pay attention. And I would say this to all of you guys, in whatever moment that you guys are starting in or having a new experience, that moment is magic, because that's when you have insights that you may not even be conscious about. And what I saw immediately was that I was working on a film. I was staying in a 5-star hotel. My kids were chauffeur-driven around town and going to the giraffe hospice, you know, to all of these like amazing things that Kenya also offers. And I was working together with a crew that was 75% made up of people from the slum of Kibera, because we were shooting there. I had decided to do this film because the story was going to expose what it is like for people living there, which I thought was very noble of myself. But what really happened was that I arrived there and I felt ashamed. I felt ashamed of driving in that car, and of the security that we had walking around me, as if the people there were dangerous, simply because they were poor or hungry. And as you can see from the video, it is shocking to walk around there, to see the absolute absence of the state, of a government in providing services to hundreds of thousands of people. And mind you guys, right now, more than 1,300,000,000 people are currently living in slums or slum-like conditions. That's 1/8, almost, 2/8 now. And by 2030, that number is going to double because of global warming. And so we're talking about a sizable part of the world who live in this sort of poverty, which is so extreme. It boggles the mind when you walk in there. And then you realize when you're working with them that there are people there who are educated. There are people there who are as smart as anyone in the room. Anyone. They would do just as well as any of you guys if they were sitting here and had the same access to the same opportunities that you guys did. And that irked me. I couldn't sleep at night. We came back here and I sort of promised to build a well. But I couldn't get over that first experience, which was they need more than water. And there's something inherently bad about charity. Like services, like education, water, sanitation, these things should be like a human right. These should be a right. Charity is offensive in that way because it says to people, you are not exercising, we don't think you should exercise a basic human right. We're saying to people, oh, poor you, let's help you because you can't do it yourself. And it was so important to me to say, no, you have the right to access to opportunity. You have the right to have a way out of here. And the experience of people living inside this place where there is no way out is just shocking. And so what I set about, together with my amazing co-founder, David Warner, I set about plotting out the way out. What services do you need every day? What services do you use every day in order to get here where you are right now? You found clean clothes, hopefully, in your closet. You charged your phone. You checked your email. You drank water. You ate food. And you came with a preparation, a skill set that had given you the money to pay for transportation to get here. Those there, we set about creating the sort of biome, the system with which we were going to make people able to be like you. And that's what we've done. We do provide water that will not make them sick. We have people dying every day, children being malformed from the experience of having waterborne diseases, children who will forever lose either mental or physical capacities because of these illnesses. So that water being clean is essential. Then you have education. We had the first high-speed internet in, I think, anywhere in a slum, frankly, because of all of the amazing tech people that joined us from the beginning here in San Francisco. And we wanted to build something beautiful, a beautiful building that said to people, we care about you. And when you think of people living in America, America's full of slums as well. America's full of places where the government is not present. And I feel, for one, that this very idea of a path out of poverty provided by the government is the very minimum that we should expect to do as a community for each other. I come from Denmark, and I am now an American citizen, but I grew up in a place where no matter where you were from, the government was telling every little child, your education's gonna be top-notch, my friend, for free. And I'm gonna take care of your teeth, your health, up until you're 18, and actually your health all the way until you die. Because those things make the difference between those who can build a career and a future outside of poverty and those who can't. So these things that we're doing in Human Needs Project, they're really based on very normal services in most of Europe. But they do create change. I am here to tell you, it does work. It just does. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Want to give enough opportunity for the applause. Don't want to cut it off. So I think we're all just really mesmerized with the work that you're doing in the Human Needs Project and how it specifically is impacting women's lives. What role do you see women playing in the transformation of their communities through access to education, clean water, and sustainable infrastructure?
The women in most parts of every country in Africa are driving the change. When you invest in these women, and I can speak from personal experience looking at the women who came out of our systems. I have one example. A young girl was a young soccer player. She was in high school, the local high school that we provide water and sanitation to. And she was on a soccer team that one of our managers from the community was coaching. And he saw that she was kind of drifting a little bit. There's nothing there. Her mom and dad were working so hard at the most menial, backbreaking jobs just to make sure that she could go to the local slum high school. That is already so rare. And so, but he could see she was drifting. Like, where would she go? Her parents had no opportunity to support her further education. And so he said, come and do the IT program. What we do at the IT program is we don't just teach IT. We teach job skills, how to be on time. What is the phone etiquette? How do you speak during a job interview? How do you dress? How are you supposed to know if you've never been or known anyone who had such a job that didn't involve carrying heavy things or cleaning other people's clothes? So this girl, she took the IT course, and then we gave her a secondary course on top of that, as we do to many, 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 hundreds and hundreds of the youth that graduate out of there. And we financed that for her with a loan that she took at the local savings and loans that we have set up. So we have like this self-feeding system. And then she went and got a job at a machine learning center, where they sit and they feed the AI models, right? And these are happening all over Kenya, where, a lot of Silicon Valley companies are actually having the AI sort of feeding machine happening in places all over Kenya and India. And so she got a job there. And that first month, she went from earning no money to earning $200 a month. Within 6 months, she was earning $700 a month, which I cannot tell you how crazy that was for a person living in a slum. She was working in a beautiful office. She was getting dressed and cleaning her clothes because, she lives in a mud hut, and there's no running water. There's no place for her to do. So that's why we have all of those washing machines, so that whoever is trying to break out of there, they can go and get professional at the center. They can take the shower, they can put on the clean clothes, and they can get their breakfast there, and then off they go. She did that. Then she went and searched and applied for a job as an IT officer in the Kenyan army, which she then got. In the meantime, this girl, with the money she was making first at the one IT shop and then at the next one, she was paying for the education of all her siblings and her cousins. So just by helping this one girl through a loan that she herself paid back, she took care of another 10 people. That is, first of all, that is also the genius of Africa. People really have to learn to be open-minded about how they see every time, there's like a civil war, or you see like all of the misery that's going on. You gotta understand what it takes of smarts to even survive that. Africa was left in a shambles by us. We came in there and we still, to this day, take more than 6 times the amount of money out of Africa that we put in through investment, so to speak, NGOs. So just so you know, Africa is no, charity client. We are taking stuff out of there. So, it's a lot of stuff you learn once you start working there, and you realize, oh, that is definitely a white person assumption. You gotta get over all of those assumptions.
That's great, thank you. So with over 1 billion people living in slums, and I believe that number is projected to double by 2030, how does the Human Needs Project plan to scale its impact?
So right now we're doing what is called microcenters. We're putting sort of like the bare bones of these little centers all around the slum right now. They're also very cheap to do, and they provide sort of like an access point to reach more people to say, hey, come over here. You can change your life right now. We can help you get clean water and all of the things so that you could become a young professional. I even made a movie. I made a short film to dramatize it for people so that they could see, hey, look at this movie. This could be you. You can change. All of a sudden, you can move into a real apartment with real running water. And you can take care of your kid, because a lot of kids there, they're moms and dads by the time they're 15. So how do you grab those people too? How do you provide them with an opportunity to do so? And so when we started making these microcenters, we realized, okay, that's a first step to scale up. Now what we're building on right now, we've made a 5 big town center scale-up plan, and we're in the process of gathering support for more of those centers. We feel like we would like to try to go into other areas as well. We would like to go into Asia, You know, there's a lot of places, even unincorporated communities here in America, that could use a center like that. There are so many communities that live without access to this mindset, a mindset change that says, I care about you, and I care about you. I have come up with this plan so that you can get some opportunities, and you can look at your dream and make that happen. And, you know, I think that could be a really great thing to do here as well.
So, how do you balance your career in Hollywood with your leadership at the Human Needs Project?
I'd like to know. Jim, have you ever been asked that question? Huh? Nothing bad about you, but
I didn't write the question.
I just want to say, like, this is the typical female question. You know, I'm sure that you guys have had weird questions when you were like being interviewed for bigger roles and stuff like, how do you plan on balancing this job with your family and so on? The fact is that I not only balance it, I so seek and get like this payback from the one zone into the next zone. When I'm with my kids, I literally, it's like filling myself up with energy. And then I bring that energy into my work on stage. And when I come home from that, I bring that energy from the filmmaking into my home or into my NGO. And so I do think that it's profoundly important to have all of these spheres. You do something for nothing, that's the NGO. You volunteer, you pay back to your community. And then there is the family. The family is just, for me, the biggest sort of like vital source of energy, of love, of gorgeousness. And then the work that provides the opportunity for me to, you know, message some of the things that I really care about, as well as exercising a passion of mine, which is to tell stories. So all these things, they kind of, they use each other in the most beautiful way.
Great. And what advice would you give to women aspiring to take on leadership roles or tackle complex global issues like poverty and that you've described?
I think, like, my experience is I've always had to overcome this, like, imposter syndrome. I've always had to overcome this, you know, very secret, even to myself, sort of doubt. Am I right for this? You know, isn't that a little bit, you know, I don't know, like arrogant to think that you can come in here and do this? Like a lot of people, when they heard that I was going to make this NGO, there was a, oh, she's just doing it for PR, or, oh, she's just, you know, whatever. So you have all of this external and internal thing. I think a lot of women still wonder, are they going to respect me as a boss? Am I going to, you know, find a way to talk to my employees with a lot of respect from my side, but am I also going to get it back if I'm too kind, or, you know, whatever it is? I think one of the things that I've taught myself was to get over myself, to kind of just go, I know what's in my heart, and what's in my heart is passion and, I don't know, goodwill, you know, the goodwill of trying to make something better. And if I happen to be in this place of leadership right now, well, so be it. Every year at the board meeting, I keep on saying, can you do it this year? Can you do it this year? You know, but it just is something that animates my soul. And so I would say to women in general that, you know, us letting go of doubt and doing something that's a little more healthy, which is to, check that you're humble. Check that you're, not being arrogant. Check that you're listening if you're being successful. But stop making yourself smaller. Because a lot of us think that that's expected from us so that we don't offend people with our bigness. And I think if we just get over that stop and just say, well, there just is not a lot of script here. We're making it up as we go, right? We went from being the underdogs, and now we are having to stop being like, get out of my way. And then maybe now it's about how do we be graceful? How do we create, sisterhood, brotherhood? How do we create community? I think, even in Hollywood, things are changing to the point where I don't think that positioning ourselves as the underdog anymore is valuable to the change that we want to see. I think confidence in the fact that we're telling stories that people want to see, not just women. Why on earth wouldn't a man want to see a story about a woman? If it's cool, if it's well told, who cares? You know what? When we made Wonder Woman, we could not believe how many male, and not in that way, fans that we got. Really, I remember looking at my then 12-year-old who sat next to me with his friends, and then the moment we started doing the fight scenes, they went like, and you could just see it didn't matter that we were women or that we were teetering in 5-inch heels while fighting. It mattered that it was cool and it looked cool. So when we are insecure or we see ourselves as the underdog, we lack a little bit of that smooth grace that I think to really, truly force through change, we have to stop looking at ourselves as not victims per se, but as secondary citizens fighting for, the right to be primary. Assume you're a primary citizen. Assume.
Well, that is wonderful, and I think that is a mic drop, and that is a great place for us to wrap this up. So, and want to thank you for spending your time with us. I know we've all enjoyed it.
Thank you. Can I just ask if there's
Absolutely.
Do we have time for questions?
Oh,
or
yes,
anything?
absolutely.
I just really would love to hear from all of the amazing members in the audience.
Absolutely.
And anything that you guys want to tell me about what you guys are dealing with. I'm very interested.
Clearly, Hollywood is a very competitive place, and yet this group is filled with women, hopefully supporting other women, and yet often women find each other in competition as if there's only one seat at that table, and so women are vying for the one seat. Can you speak to how you have role modeled and changed that level of competitiveness to focus on the sisterhood in your industry?
I am at heart a girl's girl, right? That has got to be the number one rule. You're a girl's girl. You are with the girls. I'm with the ladies. I always, I have 5 sons, and every time, I hear there's anything going on with their girlfriends or something like that, I say, you better figure it out because I'm on her side. So, just be a girl's girl from the get-go and teach your daughters to be girls' girls. You really, have each other's back is really the least we can do. If anyone hears any gossip, I'd like to remind them of my amazing uncle, whom you've never heard of, and neither have you heard what he said, so I'm here to tell you that what he said was, if you have nothing good to say about someone else, shut your mouth.
Yes.
Well, I saw the Ellen DeGeneres show last night, her last show, and hostility to women, especially women leaders in Hollywood. I didn't know if you had thought on Ellen leaving show business. Her employees calling her hostile to men.
yeah,
show
yeah.
was canceled, and she was feeling it was more of a, because she's the female boss also.
So you want to know what I think about it? So I wasn't there. And, one thing I have learned, I was one of those people who was running around with the T-shirt, women, 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 women are great, women are amazing. Sometimes women are not amazing. Sometimes women lie. They straight up lie. We have female psychopaths. We have female sociopaths, okay? We have female, very bad people, female bad people, all right? So I'd like to remind everyone of that, because every time we look at ourselves as like the underdog, we go like, we're all amazing. Everybody's amazing. We are so perfect. We deserve to have a seat at the table. But we also have bad people. Just, acknowledge that. Let's look for truth. Truth matters. And we're stronger when we establish the truth. That said, I will say that we're so quick in America to take a person's job from them without really knowing the truth. We're so ready to throw the stone, man, and get that person out of the way. But, what we know, and this is fact, okay? Like, we know that on social media and on the internet, everywhere, a lie travels 5 times wider and faster than a truth. This is fact. So, ask yourself when you read something, is it true? Because it might very, very well be a lie. So, I'm not saying that Ellen DeGeneres is a perfect person. I don't know her, and I wasn't there, and you know what? She might have a point. On the other side, I would also say, let's ask for there to be more accountability. Let's open up those processes so we know what actually happened. Let's find out how many of the people who complained were really, everybody knows here, the narcissistic drama person that is in every group, in every office. We all know those people. And if you're here, I'm sorry for you. Because they exist too, okay? They have unmet needs in here, and so they sit and they make drama all the time. What we want to do is we want to be smart about those situations before we say, throw that person out of society. Me too. I was like, yes, those people have got to be held accountable. And then at the same time, like, there's this poor guy who, a mad, crazy 16-year-old in another state, had set up a social media, account to, make sexy chatter with this guy. He never had anything to do with, he never even talked to her. And yet, this guy, because he was an actor who was very popular, he was literally pilloried and removed from every single job he had. He never even knew this person existed. No one cared. The only thing that they cared was that there was an accusation. And this guy lost everything for nothing. Let's just check. Let's just check. Is this real? Yep.
The question came up about balance, and I've seen many interviews, and women are usually asked, how do you balance it all? I could feel the intention was genuine. I think we're asked that a lot because somehow we magically make everything look, easy.
Yep.
And I think we're also told socially, just historically, that we need to balance it, we need to do these extra tasks, you need to cook, clean, and go to work. How do you answer, or what do you think as a woman, an answer could be to let a sister know you don't have to balance it all, you can say no. It's okay to have a boundary or set a limit.
I think the boundary setting is super important, but I dare you to walk past a teen room and seeing almost hazardous conditions in there and be able to just go to bed. Because I personally can't do it. I just have to go in there and just remove the danger to my kid. Sometimes it's husbands who do the same thing. There's that towel where you just wonder, how is that not going to give him, I don't know, jock itch or something? Because you know, what we end up doing all the time, in my opinion, is that we keep on just trying things to keep things from going completely haywire, right? Like we're just like, and we're like the ones who are like crawling into bed because we have tried to save everyone else in the family from sure death. And so it's sort of like difficult to set those boundaries. I'm sure you know this. I don't know, like it's the same. It's like every time you take your kid to kindergarten, like that first year, whenever you're leaving, for some reason, if they see you leave, you will for sure be late, no matter what you have to do, right? What I see is, are we creating job situations that are flexible enough for families? Are we prioritizing and centering the family? Or are these two things always at odds? You know, I just finished shooting Nobody 2, which is, you know, we were shooting in Winnipeg, and believe me, there are no direct flights, none. And so I would stop working, and then I would go from set, we were shooting nights, I'd go from set to the airport, I'd fly home, I'd arrive, and my kid would go like, "Can you make breakfast?" I have not slept. And he's like, "Are you ready? There's a basketball tournament right now." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm ready." And then Monday morning at, 3 a.m., I'm on my way to an airport again. We do this because we are just lit with whatever hormone that says you have to care. You have to care, the care hormone, right? And I mean, try and fight it. Sure, you can try and fight it. But that's why the balance is so hard, because it's biological, so much of this. And yes, some of it is social, but it's social also because maybe it's biological, I don't know. But it would be great if our communities centered that and valued all of the stuff that we do. Caretakers are the least paid people, and they do the most important thing. Why are we not valuing that job? So I think that the balance is impossible. I think that women will for always sacrifice part of themselves to their loved ones, because I think we're made that way. But I also want to say, let's not lie about how amazing that also feels. Like, your kid feels such appreciation, hopefully, for what you're doing. And I don't know, I do think that all the good that you do, it does get paid forward. And it's something we sent out into the universe, and we said, we're sending something good out there. Yeah. Thank you so much for listening and for being so awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Connie. Thank you. Phenomenal.